Coming up next on College Press Box, the Longhorn football team took on the TCU Horned Frogs.
And Texas volleyball continues to dominate the Big 12.
All this and more on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome to College Press Box. I'm your host Renee Marino, and with me this evening is Camille Brooks. How are you doing, Camille?
No, Renee, I'm doing well. I'm a little bit tired, but I'm happy to be here.
Very nice. On Saturday, the Longhorns traveled up to Fort Worth to take on the TCU Horned Frogs. With 6 minutes left in the second quarter, lightning was seen in the area and the game paused for a 3-hour weather delay. What did you do to fill this weather gap, Camille?
You know, I can't lie. I went out for a little bit of Halloween party fun, but I kept my phone on hand to make sure I knew exactly when the game was going to start back up.
Very nice. Mack Brown specifically talked about this rain delay in his press conference on Monday.
I've never been involved in anything like a 3-hour and 6-minute delay at that point in the ball game. So it was very unique. We thought we learned from Brigham Young in the fact that we didn't tell them 2 or 3 different times to be ready to go back out because we actually didn't know, didn't have any idea, and it was an hour and 47 minutes at Brigham Young, and in this case, over 3 hours. So we actually treated it like halftime, except the guys did take their pads off. Some listened to their music. Some sat and talked to each other. Some went to sleep. Same with the coaches. But we also had our halftime visits with our coaches to go over certain adjustments that we thought we needed after the first half.
Despite the 3-hour rain delay, gameplay did resume, and the Longhorns put up a dominating victory over the Horned Frogs. Let's take a look at the highlights. Here we go in Fort Worth. Texas defense makes a big statement on 3rd down. Reed and Jeffcoat force a fumble, which is recovered by the Longhorns. Texas will start their drive on their own 3-yard line, and against the TCU defense, that shouldn't be a problem. And on 1st and goal, Malcolm Brown will punch it in to give Texas a 7-0 lead. TCU with some trickery later in the first as a receiver pass to Ladarius Brown, and it results in a TCU touchdown. This would be TCU's only touchdown of the night. Early in the second quarter, Texas up 10-7. Case McCoy drops a 65-yard bomb right in the hands of Marcus Johnson. Johnson strides to the end zone untouched. Horns up 10. In the third quarter, at the goal line, Brown gets his second touchdown of the night, and the Horns stretch the lead to 27-7. And Farah, who's been golden all season long, knocks down a 36-yard attempt. And this would be the Horns' last points of the night. Texas wins 30-7 and improves to 4-0 in Big 12 play.
All right, and with us this evening, we have College Press Box's Josh Blunt here to join us on this discussion. Oh, wait, at first, before we get to Josh, he is here, but first we're going to hear what Mack Brown had to say about the game.
They've got to go back, and we can improve a lot of things from Saturday night. And that's the good thing, I think, Mike, more than anything else. We're still not near as good as this team can be, but they're playing with passion. They're playing together. I told them in yesterday's meeting we're playing as a team. We're running it. We're hitting deep shots. We're helping the defense. The defense is stopping the run. Just the flip side of last year at this time, we had lost Kansas State, OU, and TCU, and we've beaten 3 of those over the last 4 ball games. But in last year's game, they rushed for 277. Boykin rushed for 77 of those, and we rushed for 86. And we flipped those numbers on Saturday night in a lot of ways, and I think that's the difference in the game.
And like I said moments ago, Josh Blunt from College Press Box is here to join us on this college football discussion. How are you this evening, Josh?
I'm doing great, Renee. How are you?
I'm doing good. All right, so a lot of fans were looking to this game to decide how good the team actually was going to be after their win on Oklahoma. What does this win mean for the team, Josh?
Well, Renee, I think it was a big win for the Texas football team. A lot of people speculated coming off the Oklahoma win whether this team would be able to maintain their consistency in the run game with the swagger, and I think they did. Coming in, they got a big 17-7, and even with the 3.5-hour rain delay, they came back, still had the right mentality, still had the right swagger, and they went and proceeded to put a whipping on TCU, which was very good for the psyche of this Texas team, as well as Longhorn Nation.
All right. Do you have anything to add to that one, Camille?
I completely agree. There were a lot of people hating on the Longhorns coming into this game, thinking that TCU was going to beat them. But, you know, I think they really proved their worth. I think they proved that Case McCoy proved that he can be a solid quarterback, and the defense has stepped up even more so than last week.
All right. Well, another big story coming out of this game for all of the Texas fans is that Mac Brown played true freshman Tyrone Swoops, burning his red shirt. Why do you think they did this, and what does this mean for the rest of the season, Josh?
Well, for one, I think it signals the future of the program. I think Mac decided it was time for Tyrone Swoops to get some playing time, especially with the inconsistent history and future of David Ash. And I think it was good for him to get some playing time. It was garbage time. It wasn't very meaningful, but it was good for him to get some action in the game, get some game experience, so that if the time did come for him to play, that he would be ready, unlike Garrett Gilbert, who got his first really instant game time once Colt McCoy got hurt in the 2009 championship game. So I thought it was a move to signal the future for the Longhorn program.
All right. The game did a really good job to highlight the strengths of a lot of the members of the team. What player would you say had the biggest impact on Saturday's win?
Player that had the biggest impact on this win is definitely Marcus Johnson. Virtually an unknown coming into the OU game. He emerged 2 weeks ago as a big-time downfield threat for Case McCoy after he caught a long touchdown pass against OU. And then once again, he comes in this game, hauls in a 65-yard touchdown pass, has only three catches before 120 yards. He's another threat to add with Mike Davis, Jackson Shipley, along with the dual running threat of Malcolm Brown and Mike Davis. This was a huge coming out party for Marcus Johnson. I look for a lot to come from him the rest of the season.
All right, and the defense only missed one tackle during the entire game. How much of an impact do you think that new defensive coordinator Greg Robinson has had on the team's recent successes?
Greg Robinson has been a lifesaver for this Texas team. Coming in, this Texas team, everyone knows their woes and their struggle against the rushing game. In this TCU game, they only gave up 45 yards while forcing 3 turnovers. This Texas team has done a complete 180 around. They are focused, and they have that swagger back that they had back in the days of Vince Young and Colt McCoy days. And especially you can see it in the play of Jackson Jeffcoat. And Manny Diaz's scheme, he was standing up, getting knocked around, wasn't making a lot of plays. Coming in, he has his hand to the ground, playing old-fashioned football. He's leading the Big 12 with 6 sacks on the season. So Greg Robinson has been a huge, huge plus for this Texas defense.
All right, now let's hear a little bit more from Mac Brown and what he had to say about this weekend's victory during his weekly Mac Monday press conference.
They've got to go back, and we can improve a lot of things from Saturday night. And that's the good thing, I think, Mike, more than anything else. We're still not near as good as this team can be, but they're playing with passion. They're playing together. I told them in yesterday's meeting we're playing as a team. We're running it. We're hitting deep shots. We're helping the defense. The defense is stopping the run. Just the flip side of last year at this time, we had lost Kansas State, OU, and TCU, and we've beaten 3 of those over the last 4 ball games. But in last year's game, they rushed for 277. Boykin rushed for 77 of those, and we rushed for 86. And we flipped those numbers on Saturday night in a lot of ways, and I think that's the difference in the game.
All right, we want to thank Josh for his wonderful analysis. He will be back later in the show to help us talk about how the rest of the Big 12 did. And coming up next on College Press Box, so we're going to take a look at how softball and volleyball did over the weekend. So be sure and stay tuned. Welcome back to College Press Box. Let's go ahead and start talking about the rest of the games from this past week with how the Longhorn volleyball team did on the road. So the volleyball team traveled to Morgantown, West Virginia last Wednesday to take on the Mountaineers. Sophomore Molly McCage had a career-high 11 kills to help lead the team in a dominant win in 3 sets, which gave the Longhorns their 10th consecutive win. Texas had 48 kills and hit .384 for the night, which was their most productive night since beginning league action.
The Haley and Bailey show was in full force when the Longhorns took on the Kansas State Wildcats in Manhattan, Kansas this past Saturday. The All-Americans put up 9 kills each in the 3-set victory to continue their 11-game winning streak. Amy Neal made her first start of the 2013 season and dominated the back row, while freshman Chloe Collins got her start over senior Hannah Allison and put up 34 assists, winning her the Big 12 Rookie of the Week award. The Longhorns defeated the Wildcats in a very short 3 sets and hope to continue their winning streak at home this Wednesday against the TCU Horned Frogs.
The Longhorns soccer team traveled to Nacogdoches, Texas to take on the Stephen F. Austin Lady Jacks on Friday for their final non-conference game of the season. 6 minutes into the game, senior Gabby Zarnagar scored her second goal of 2013, which came off a corner kick from Charisse LaChapelle. Freshman Julia Deich scored Texas's second goal of the night in the 68th minute. Keeper Andy Smith would get her 8th straight shutout of the season, and Texas would get the win 2-0. The Longhorns play the Texas Tech Red Raiders on November 1st for their final game of the regular season.
The Texas men's swimming and diving team took on Indiana and Michigan in their meet this past weekend. The boys put up a decisive 204-96 point victory over number 9 ranked Indiana, but fell to the number 1 ranked Wolverines 134-166. Freshman Jack Conger tagged 3 big victories, while junior Clay Youngquist had 2 of his own. Sophomore Sam Lewis dominated the distance field, winning the 500 and falling just 2 seconds behind U.S. Olympic team member and NCAA champion Connor Yeager of Michigan. The Longhorns will take on Virginia, Penn State, and West Virginia this Friday in Charlottesville.
The women's swimming and diving team, along with Michigan's team, went to take on Indiana in a dual meet this past Friday. Texas had a commanding win over Michigan, outscoring them 210-90. And while the Indiana score wasn't that decisive, Texas did beat them 155-41. The diving team made a major contribution with their sweep of the podium in the 3-meter dive, with junior Emma Ivory Ganeha, sophomore Megan Houston, and freshman Murphy Bromberg. Senior Samantha Tucker, the reigning Big 12 Swimmer of the Week, didn't disappoint either, winning the 200-meter freestyle in 1 minute 47 seconds. The team's next match is November 8th, along with the men's, playing Virginia, Penn State, and West Virginia.
The Texas softball team was handed their second straight preseason loss last Thursday by the Texas State Bobcats. Let's take a look at what happened. You see the team getting pumped up. You got Taylor Thom on second in the bottom of the 4th. A fielding error by Texas State off of the hit by Holly Korn allows Taylor Thom to score. Score Texas 1, Texas State 0. Texas State with 1 runner on in the top of the 5th. Courtney Harris hits a home run, and that will bring in 2 runners for Texas State, making the score Texas 1, Texas State 2. In the top of the 5th, Texas State runner on second. A double by Texas State's Coralie Ramirez gets them another score, Texas 1, Texas State 3. In the bottom of the 5th, you have Gabby Smith on third base, and Brigée Washington will hit a sacrifice fly to run her in. Texas 2, Texas State 3. And in the top of the 6th, you have a Texas State runner on second. Taylor Thom misses the ball, and Texas State will score. Texas 2, Texas State 4. And in the top of the 6th, Holly Kern will walk in 2 back-to-back runners. She pitched 1.1 innings, struck out 3 different runners, but then also ran 5 in for Texas State, bringing the score to Texas 2, Texas State 6. And finally, in the bottom of the 6th, Taylor Thom and Holly Kern hit back-to-back doubles to make the score Texas 3, Texas State 6. Kelly Hazel on third as a pinch runner for Holly Kern. Aaron Shireman's sacrifice fly to left field to score for Hazel. Final score, Texas 4, Texas State 6. I was actually at McCombs for this game and had the chance to speak to head coach Connie Clark and offensive leader Taylor Thom. Due to some struggles on offense, the Texas softball team was handed their second straight preseason loss by the Texas State Bobcats this past Thursday.
We kept fighting back and fighting back and fighting back. We may not have gotten the outcome we wanted, but we definitely put up a good fight.
I mean, we were working on specifically having a kind of a defensive starting lineup, if you will, and an offensive starting lineup. And we have the luxury in the fall of being able to have 2 separate ones as opposed to the spring. So, really the takeaways for that were just seeing a flow with the defense. I mean, in our previous games, you had people, changing out every inning, every 2 innings, and it's hard to build up some continuity with the people next to you. So I think there were some good things in that regard, both offensively and defensively, to see a little bit.
While the team struggled offensively with their hitting, both Coach Clark and the players thought that the defense was strong.
And I really did like that we had a good look defensively, and we get 10 innings. We're supposed to have 10 innings on our next scrimmage, and to get a defense to work together for 10 innings, and that'll build my pitchers out to get them probably 3 innings and go a little bit longer. We got a lot of things to work on. I mean, we haven't really covered everything that you want to cover in the fall, and we haven't built in all of our signals yet, and offensive schemes. So we'll continue to build up.
I mean, I think definitely our hitting. We didn't have time.
The Longhorn softball team would finish their fall ball schedule with an away game against Texas Women's University in Denton this past Saturday. Freshman Tiara Davis made her first start of the season in this 10-inning game. Davis only allowed 1 run on 3 hits in 3 innings. The Longhorns led 11-1 after the first 5 innings, after which they switched to a situational play, during which the Pioneers managed to score a few more runs. But the softball team closed out their fall season 4-2 and are now preparing for their annual alumni game on Friday, November 1st. We're going to change gears back into college football and take a look at how the rest of the Big 12 did and look towards Saturday's game against Kansas. Stay tuned. It's College Press Box. Football analyst Josh Blunt is back with us now, which means that it's time to talk about how the rest of the Big 12 did this weekend. So, first game up for us is OU versus Texas Tech. The OU Tech game also had some rain delays this past Saturday, not quite as long as ours. The Sooners did hand the Red Raiders their first loss of the season, winning 38-30 after a long battle. So what does this loss tell us about the Texas Tech team that we will get to play later this season, Josh?
I think it tells us that this Texas Tech team was very overrated. I think anyone who watched the college football unfold over the season knew that this Texas Tech team was not a true number 10 team in the country. They hadn't played a ranked opponent, and I believe a lot of their opponents had losing records. So this was their really first test, and of course Oklahoma showed them that they're really not ready to play with the elite in college football.
All right, and obviously both of these teams are major competitors for the Big 12 title this season, and now that they're both 4-1 in conference play, what does this mean for Texas and, of course, the whole Big 12 standings in general?
This means Texas has a shot. Texas is sitting at the top of the Big 12 with undefeated, and they have a shot to win the Big 12 conference. Now, they do have tests towards the end of the season, especially with Oklahoma State and Baylor, that game being at Baylor. But this is definitely wide open for Texas to win, as well as Baylor and Oklahoma State.
All right, and Kansas State got their first conference win of the season against West Virginia Saturday, winning 35-12. What did Kansas State finally get right in this win on Saturday?
I think, for one thing, they got the combination of both offense and defense spurring at the same time. They both had great defensive games. Offense put up 35 points, which was their first 30-plus total game this season in Big 12 play. But I think another thing that factored in, they just faced a team that was not as good as them, that was actually worse than them. West Virginia has been struggling all season. They, too, I believe, are also they don't have a win in Big 12 play, so I think that was a large factor in Kansas State getting the win this weekend.
All right, and West Virginia has now lost their 3rd game in a row. Where do they need to be focusing their attention? This West Virginia offense is not as explosive as it was a year ago. They have no get up and go about them. They have no explosiveness about them. So they need to focus on retooling the offense to put some points up on the board. This West Virginia team last year was known to put up 40, 50-plus points, and now they're having QB struggles, and their offense is just not going the way that they would like it to go. All right, next game we're going to talk about is Kansas versus Baylor, and Big 12 leading Baylor took on the team that is last in the Big 12 this weekend, so it wasn't a big surprise to many that the Bears beat the Jayhawks. However, Kansas didn't allow Baylor the blowout a lot of people were expecting and kept the Bears under the 70 points per game that they were averaging. So what did Kansas do right to slightly slow down this high-powered Baylor offense? I don't think they did anything right. I think just Baylor just struggled early on in the game. Sometimes it takes the offense a little while to get going, get in the flow of things, and get that rhythm that those high-tempo spread offenses like. That being said, I think Kansas, they were just a factor of Baylor just starting out slow and struggling at the beginning.
All right. I think Baylor hasn't had a lot of big tests this year so far. They still have to play Texas. I don't believe they've played OSU. So they put up all these 70-point scores, but not against some big opponents. So we'll see how they fare against the rest of the season as it gets a little bit tougher. All right. And so what would you guys say was the biggest surprise of this Kansas-Baylor game?
I think the biggest surprise is definitely that Baylor didn't put up 70, 80 points on Kansas. Kansas has been the doormat of the Big 12 for years and probably for more years to come. So for them not to put up 80 easily on the Kansas Jayhawks, I think it was a miracle in itself.
All right, and so as Camille mentioned a minute ago, Baylor is facing the toughest part of their season starting this week against OU. How do you think they're going to do?
I think this is definitely, as you said, a big test for Baylor, and it's interesting. I honestly don't think they will pass this test. I think Oklahoma, they're used to seeing this type of offense, and they are one of the better teams in the country defensive-wise. So I look for the Oklahoma Sooners to upset, per se, if you would like, the Baylor Bears this weekend.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our upcoming game this Saturday against the Longhorns, who are going to play the Kansas Jayhawks. Now, who do you expect to see in this quarterback position now that Swoops has played and Ash is definitely out?
It's definitely going to be Case McCory. Case has done nothing otherwise to remove himself from the position. He has played smart football. He has led this Texas team to 2 big wins. So it's definitely going to be Case McCory, but I will look out for more Swoops in the game, maybe some running packages to exploit that backfield with him and Jonathan Gray, and also him and Malcolm Brown. So I definitely look for Swoops to get some snaps, but this is Case McCoy's team throughout the rest of the season.
All right, and now, I mean, no one's going to argue that Texas is a perfect team right now, so where do we still need to go? What needs to be improved on?
I definitely look at the offensive rushing game. I liked how Coach Applewhite stayed consistent in the rushing game while it did not work, as neither back had over 100 yards against TCU. But I think it was good for the team's psyche to stay with that rushing game. So in the Kansas game, I like to see them stay consistent with the rushing game, continue to rotate the backs, Gray and Brown, and just work on getting more push at the offensive line and working towards getting the 2 backs over 100 yards again. And defensive-wise, I would look for the defense to improve in the passing game. While the rushing game has come along a lot this season, they still gave up over 200 yards passing to TCU, which is not bad, but there's always room for improvement on the defensive side of the ball.
All right, and then does Kansas have something special that the team needs to be watching out for?
Absolutely not. I said it earlier. This Kansas team is the doormat of the Big 12. They have no special players. They have no get up and go about them. I honestly think Charlie Weiss may be gone at the end of the season for the Jayhawks. So no, I think as long as Longhorns stay consistent and keep their head in the game, they should be fine against Kansas.
All right, sounds good. Well, we want to thank Josh Blunt for coming in this evening and talking college football with us. And then head coach Mack Brown also talked in this press conference about how he felt for this upcoming game. Let's hear what he had to say.
The message to our team is go back and watch last year's video. You got out by the skin of your teeth with 12 seconds left. And if that doesn't help you get excited about Saturday, then nothing should.
Kansas isn't going to come in and lay down. They're going to come in and play. They're going to be the best team we'll have seen on film by them. We understand that. We understand a lot of those guys are from Texas, that they want to come back and play in their home state in front of a lot of their families. So we understand that it's not a game that maybe how we approached it last year. We understand we have to approach every game because you let one slip up on you right now, a lot of our goals start drifting out the window. So that's where we are right now. Our goal is to win a Big 12 championship, and the next step there is against Kansas this week.
When we come back, I'll update you on Texas golf and tell you what's happening this week in Longhorn sports. Stay tuned. It's College Press Box. Thanks for staying with us here on College Press Box. The number 14 ranked men's golf team played in the Isleworth Collegiate Invitational this weekend. Sophomore Taylor Termier hit a career best 3 under par 69 on opening day to put the Longhorns in 8th place heading into the rest of the weekend. Day 2 was a little rough for the Horns, falling to 14th place despite senior Tony Hakula hitting 1 under par 71. And on the 3rd day of competition, Tony Hakula and Taylor Termier led the team back up to 7th place in the 15-team field. The Longhorns have a break until February 6th, where they will begin the championship season in Hawaii.
All right, and yesterday marked the beginning of the 3-day Alamo Invitational in San Antonio for the women's golf team. On Sunday, sophomore Taziria Abe had on par 72 in the first round. At the end of Sunday, Oklahoma was atop the leaderboard and Texas was in 14th place. However, after today's play, Arkansas seems to have taken a 2-stroke lead, and Texas has now fallen to last place. Texas's leader, Julia Beck, is currently in 43rd place overall.
Men's tennis hosted the UT Invitational this weekend right here in Austin, Texas. Junior Adrian Berkowitz won the A singles title on Sunday against his friend Mate Katura of Tyler Junior College. Texas Tech took both the singles B draw and the doubles championship. Texas will conclude the fall individual season at the USTA-ITA National Indoor Championships in New York from November 7th to 10th.
All right, and on Saturday, the Longhorns women's rowing team hosted the head of the Colorado competition here at Lady Bird Lake. The varsity 8-member boat took first place with a time of 18 minutes 19 seconds, and one of the novice 8-member boats took first as well. Following these wins, the varsity squad traveled up to Princeton, New Jersey for the Princeton Chase. Unfortunately, this match didn't go quite as well for the Horns. Their top team, one of the 4-member boats, finished the nearly 3-mile race in 17 minutes 50 seconds, but that landed them in 14th place. The team will finish their fall season next weekend in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Let's take a look at what's coming up this weekend in Longhorn sports. Tuesday, 10/29, women's golf will play at the Alamo Invitational. On Wednesday, October 30th, volleyball will play TCU here at Gregory Gym. That starts at 7 p.m. On Thursday, the 31st, women's basketball will play Midwestern State at 7 p.m. Friday, November the 1st, the softball team will have their alumni game, and then soccer will play Texas Tech at Texas Tech at 7 p.m. On Saturday the 2nd, the football team will take on the Kansas Jayhawks at home at 2:30. Volleyball will play Oklahoma at 6:30. The track and field and cross-country teams will play in the Big 12 Championship starting at 10 a.m. and rowing at the head of the hooch. On November 1st and 2nd, women's tennis will play at the Collegiate Invitational.
All right, one last quick thing before we go. Camille, what do you think the score is going to be of this Kansas game?
You know, I don't think this one will be a problem at all for the Longhorns. I'm thinking a 42-7 victory.
All right, I'm definitely also predicting a victory there, but I'm saying that Kansas will put up a little bit closer of a fight, and it'll be more like 31-7. All right, well, that's going to be all we have time for this evening. Be sure to catch us every Monday at 9:30 for all the news on what's happening around the 40 acres. But if you'd like a more constant update about what's going on in Texas sports, you can follow us on Twitter at College Press Box. Also, make sure to tune in on Wednesdays for College Crossfire. And those guys are also on Twitter at College Xfire. And for everyone behind the scenes, in studio, and master control, for Camille Brooks and Josh Blunt, I'm Renee Marino. Thank you for joining us this evening.